Hey there, I'm Hallie, and we're coming on the air tonight with that mass shooting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Officials, as we have been reporting here, saying multiple people are dead. It is still not clear exactly how many, but they say the suspected shooter is dead as well. It is not clear if police killed him or if he died by suicide. There has been a massive law enforcement response to this. Look at some of this video. You're seeing SWAT trucks here making their way to the scene. On the roof of a campus building, police snipers. Things are locked down. That is the situation as we speak out west right now. I want to get to our team covering every minute of this. NBC's Emily Aketa and NBC's Tom Winter as well. Emily, let me start with you. Where do things stand right now?
Well, Hallie, a rapidly developing situation, but the latest from police, they say there is no current threat on campus. Right now, police are going building to building, room to room in search of what they're hoping will not be additional victims. Take a look here. This is what we know at this hour. The suspect has been located and is deceased. Again, they are underscoring no further threat. There have been multiple people killed, according to 2 senior law enforcement officials. Others have been transported to the hospitals, though we don't know the extent of their injuries. The motive in this case still unknown. So many unanswered questions remain at this hour. The university is telling students to continue to shelter in place. We also know that just nearby is a major airport, and there's a ground stop ordered by the FAA that is still underway as a result of this security situation. There is a nearby highway that has been closed as this active investigation continues to play out, and other schools have also been closed as precaution, including the College of Southern Nevada. We heard from a professor who was on the campus who told our colleague Katie Tur that he heard 7 to 8 gunshots. He believes it sounded like it came from a high-powered weapon. Students describing the chaos and confusion that unfolded, hearing shouting, many understandably shaken, moving away from windows, falling to the ground. The mayor today tweeting out that tragic and heartbreaking news coming out of UNLV, praying for everyone on campus as law enforcement responds to the situation. The governor also says he's in constant communication with police. We know the FBI is involved, U.S. Marshals, also local police, campus police. This is a city, Hallie, that is all too familiar with mass shootings. Remember, just 3 miles from this school is where the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history played out at Mandalay Bay at the Las Vegas Strip, Hallie.
And I'm going to ask you to stand by for a second because, Tom Winter, I want to go to you here. We have heard now from officials at the scene talking about what Emily has just laid out here, the situation as it stands. Can you tell us more about what you are hearing from the sources that you're talking to?
Sure, Hallie. So I think a couple of things. One, it's still really fluid. Obviously, this is a major city and a major city police department, which, as Emily alluded to, one of the homes of one of the worst mass shootings in modern American history, when Stephen Paddock fired upon a concert at the Mandalay Bay in 2017, killing 60, injuring over 400 from gunfire alone. This police department immediately putting out a social media post this afternoon that this incident is going on. UNLV police doing the same. And so you've seen a significant law enforcement response kind of flooding this campus here. And now things tend to slow down a little bit because, one, they believe they know who the shooter is, that shooter is no longer alive. Whether they died by an act of suicide or whether they were shot by police is still something that we're waiting to hear. And they're going room to room, building to building on that campus to make sure they can account for everybody. A reason why they do that, and they make it a slow process, they don't want everybody running around and they're not sure who's who and if anybody has a gun or could somebody else be out there that they're looking for.
I'm going to jump into the point that you're talking to here because we've got somebody standing by here who is actually part of what you're talking about here, the evacuation from campus. Robert Lovato, he's an assistant professor at UNLV. Sir, thank you so much for being with us here. Are you in a location that is safe? What can you tell us?
Well, that's a relative term right now. We've been told there's not a second shooter. There were rumors flying around, and we were all on lockdown, and some of us were actually on our way to the student union and right next door, and some of our faculty was in that building, and some of our students were there. And we're kind of anxiously waiting to hear what happened.
Well, so I'm wondering where you are right now, because the building where you are had been locked down. Are you part of that evacuation procedure now?
Yeah, I'm waiting to be evacuated as we're, so I may have to just cut out if that's okay.
It is more than okay, Mr. Lovato. Can you tell me a little bit about what you saw and heard in the last couple of hours here as this horrific shooting has unfolded on your campus?
Well, we were, colleagues and I were getting ready to go to a meeting at precisely right next to where the shooting was, and we were preparing our stuff, and then you suddenly heard like semi-automatic weapons firing at a very fast clip, and then we got word that there was an active shooter, and we were told to lock down, so we did precisely that.
How close did the shooting seem based on the noises that you heard?
I mean, it's just like a 4-minute walk.
Wow.
down the strip from our offices in the English department.
Are you with your students now?
Yeah, we're with our students, and we've been just talking with each other and, made sure everybody was safe and accounted for, and we're praying for whoever was there. There was a lot of students there at the time. They were gathered for some student event. And, it's very upsetting.
Incredibly so. Can you tell us a little bit about the campus, about the university itself? I think for people who are not familiar with UNLV, what should they know?
It's a very diverse campus. It has a lot of great program. It's a Tier 1 institution and, has a lot of really caring faculty and great students. And we don't deserve this. And this is what happens when you teach a society that you solve your problems with violence. Where we're seeing here, and we're seeing it around the world, you don't solve problems with violence. And our government needs to teach people that. Our government needs to teach people that you don't solve problems with more guns.
Mr. Lovato, what kind of communications have you had from the school? Are you getting alerts and messages on your phone?
Yeah, we're getting regular alerts. Yeah, we're getting alerts on our phones and through the communication systems in the department and throughout the university, and they've been just repeating the message for us to shelter in place.
And is that how you've been getting most of your information, or are you and the students that you're with also online, looking at social media, trying to listen to the news?
I had my family monitoring the news to tell us, because when these situations happen, there are rumors running everywhere. People are terrified, and you start hearing that there's a second shooter, and oh shit, what do I do? So, we had our families communicating with us, and we were communicating with each other to share information.
Can you tell us about the conversations that you are having now with the students who you're with? I know that one of them, you said, had been testing for qualifying PhD exams in the department. You were in the course of your regular business day, your regular school day, when this nightmare happened to your campus and to your community here.
Yeah, it's not business as usual anymore. And everything just stopped. And, we were going to go have a meeting with my colleagues. I don't know if they shared with you the emails that some of our faculty got right in the middle of this.
Can you share it with us now?
Yeah, I'll read it for you.
Sure. Just paraphrase whatever you...
Yeah, basically somebody who saw the shooting was the shooting on oppressed N-word, shit-colored who are violent because they are angry with their, just this really racist diatribe sent to people terrified, locked down, worried for their lives. What kind of a sick person sends emails to people who are right in the middle of this? That's what we all have to think about. What kind of a society do we have where you send this kind of message to people who are fearing for their lives?
Just a traumatic afternoon and evening for you, for your community, for the students that you're with. Robert Lovato, thank you very much. Again, an assistant professor in the English department there at UNLV. Thank you for your time. We're glad that you and others are safe. Obviously, as he laid out there, they are waiting for the sort of green light to evacuate where they are locked down on campus currently. And it is coming as we are getting some more information here from the sheriff talking about this UNLV shooting. According to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, putting this out online, there are at least 3 victims. That number could change. And again, no further threat to the community. That's an important note here. I want to bring back in both Tom Winter and Emily Aketa. Tom, what else can you tell us? And as you listen to the description there from Robert Lovato, again, who is on campus there, somebody who is part of that lockdown, talk to me about where this goes.
Right. So I think a couple of things. One, trying to determine why this individual did what they did, whether they're a student or whether they're not, the age of this specific individual. And so I think they'll probably already have a pretty good sense on who this person is, and then obviously go through their past history, social media presence, et cetera. We're used to talking about that, probably too used to it, Hallie. As far as where things stand right now, I just happened to search while we've been speaking here and trying to reach out to folks, same with my colleagues, Andy Blankstein and John Dientz. We're not aware of any sort of protest or activity on campus today, specifically tied to any sort of protest involving what's going on in the Middle East, either pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli. So there doesn't appear to be an event or a type of planned event this afternoon that could have attracted somebody to carry out this potential violence. It's still a little unclear whether it all happened inside one of the buildings there or may have also occurred outside of it. So still a lot of questions, still very fluid. Nobody has told us that this is terrorism. On the other hand, nobody has told us that it's not. So as police have said, and publicly and on the record, they have no idea what the motive is. And until obviously they have a better sense of that, neither will we. So that's where things stand right now. Yeah. I think a couple things to watch for here. Next half hour, 45 minutes, getting a little bit of a better clarity on the exact number of victims, who's been taken to the hospital, whether or not, of course, they're student, staff, or both. Those things are still in question, and obviously the name of the individual who's alleged to have done this here today. And so that's something we'll be looking for. I think it is important, you mentioned at the top of the show, Hallie, no believed threat to anywhere else in Las Vegas or this school at this time. Police are pretty adamant in their social media posts and in their statements that at this stage they have no reason to believe that this there's anybody else that they're looking for, there's any additional threat to this area.
We also know that Sunrise Hospital Trauma Center in the area has received a patient, they say, from the UNLV shooting here. Tom, I want you to stand by. I want to bring in Emily Aketa, because another piece of information as far as the nexus to federal investigations, the FBI is confirming that it has, I believe, agents assisting Las Vegas and Metro Police with this investigation. We know the next update we are set to get is in just under 3 hours from now, although obviously we could hear anything at any time. You heard, and I want to correct myself there, Roberto Lovato, the professor who we just spoke with live on the air, who is locked down on campus with his students here. There has been a lot of reaction now from students talking about what they heard, what we saw. Let me play you a little bit more of that here.
We heard loud shouting, immediate panic. Everyone dropped down to the floor, loud shouting, until they told us, hey, it's cops. No one told us that it was cops at the very beginning. We just knew that there were people. So they evacuated us out, men with armed guns. About 30 minutes after, we were in lockdown for about 30 minutes until we got evacuated.
Just a harrowing experience for so many here at the university. Emily.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what your conversation with the professor really underscores is that the evacuations are still very much underway. Police are still going building to building, hoping they don't come across even more victims, as they point out that the numbers are still very fluid in this situation. You heard the professor almost speaking with the whisper. It really captured the sense of unease that continues to grip so much of the population at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Students, you hear from them describing how they moved away from the windows. They heard shouting. People heard gunshots, 7 to 8 gunshots, one witness described, and they say it sounded like it was coming from a high-powered weapon. People describing the thoughts that start going through their minds as word of an active shooter on campus started to spread, trying to reach loved ones in these very chaotic, emotional moments that are still playing out for many people who are still waiting to be evacuated by police, as you heard from the professor, Hallie.
And again, we are learning in just the last couple of minutes here, according to the sheriff and Las Vegas Metro PD, at least 3 victims. We do not know the extent of their injuries, but obviously, Emily, Tom, our entire team in the region will keep you updated as soon as we hear anything further on the shooting that has unfolded. We turn now to some new details tonight in Texas, with people there breathing a sigh of relief after police arrested somebody who they say is responsible for an 8-hour shooting spree across multiple cities that left 6 people dead, 3 others hurt. The suspect has been identified now, facing charges of capital murder. These shootings stretched from San Antonio to Austin, with the first call coming in just before 11 a.m. local time yesterday. It took some 8 hours for this person to be arrested, according to Austin police, after he crashed his car while speeding away from a shootout with police that left them with apparently multiple gunshot wounds. They were shot multiple times. I want to bring in Guad Venegas, who is covering this and joining us now. How did this unfold, and what are we learning tonight?
Hallie, so Austin police have shared details about that timeline. We know that in Austin, this all started yesterday morning, just before 11 a.m., when an officer from the Austin Independent School District was shot near a school. He was shot and injured. And then an hour later, about an hour later, there was a 911 call to an address in Austin. When officers arrived, they found a double homicide, 2 people inside of that home deceased, a male and a female. And then about 5 hours later, a cyclist in a different part of Austin reported being shot and injured. Then 2 hours later, there were 911 calls to another address. Police then reported a burglary taking place. The first officer that arrived to that address then saw the suspect in the backyard and says the suspect shot at him. The officer also opened fire, but the suspect was able to flee. As you mentioned, he got in a car, drove away. He was chased down by other police officers who eventually apprehended him after he was in that car accident. Now, that officer who opened fire did get injured when the suspect opened fire against the officer. He was taken to a hospital. Meanwhile, other officers, Hallie, went inside of that second home and found 2 more people deceased. Now, after all of this happened and the police department arrested and identified the suspect, they then called the Bear Sheriff's Department, asking the Sheriff's Department to go to an address they said was associated to this suspect. Then the sheriff's deputies went to that address and found 2 more bodies in that address. Now, this was south of Austin in the San Antonio area. So a lot of information that authorities have been sharing today as to the timeline of these events, Hallie.
Guad Venegas, thank you very much for keeping us updated on that. Appreciate it. We'll take you to the Pacific Northwest now, getting totally bombarded with record-breaking rain pouring down, floods pouring through the region with 2 people now dead in these storms. Take a look at this. This Coast Guard rescue mission. You see it. Somebody getting pulled from the roof of their car up into a chopper because of the water that had overtaken the roads there. He's flying up to safety at this point. You've got flood warnings in effect for areas around about a dozen rivers. More than 8 million people in Washington, Oregon, Northern California are under alerts. We told you the storm has been deadly. That's because 2 people are believed to have drowned in creeks. It is a huge mess right now with multiple storm systems tearing through. You can see some of the flooding in Washington state. Landslides taking down big trees, cars trying to make their way down roads, and some of these homes just wrecked by this extreme weather. Part of this is driven by the record temperatures in the Pacific Northwest. Seattle, 59 degrees Tuesday. That's a record high this time of year. Tied to, guess what, 2023, now the warmest year ever. Let's bring in meteorologist Bill Cairns here. Bill, we've been talking about this a long time here, this storm system that is moving through, and now the idea that increasingly, because of climate change, you are seeing catastrophes like this. Tell us what we're seeing and what we can expect on the ground.
Yeah, I think the biggest headline as we end this year is that this is going to be the warmest year we've ever recorded. And if you want to go to some of our tree experts that do the tree rings and the ice core samples, they're saying that this is going to be like the warmest year on our planet in like 180,000 years. So just to show you the list of where it stands, this is the hottest years we've recorded in the satellite era. So this is going back, to the 1960s, 1970s. This is where we are this year. So 2016 was the warmest year ever recorded. We're not just going to beat that, but now it looks like we're going to beat that by a considerable amount, mostly because of the super strong El Nino that's developing. And next year, because of the El Nino that'll start in the beginning of the year, we're expecting to challenge us. It'd be shocking if next year is not in the top 3 also. So that's kind of where we're at. And when we get conditions like this that are that warm, it's not surprising, Hallie, that we get a snowstorm when you're supposed to, but then all of a sudden you get this crazy warm up, and then you get all that water melting, and you get the heavy rain event on top of it. And that's what happened in the Pacific Northwest. And by the way, watch out in New England on Sunday. Northern New England has a lot of snow. It's going to be warm again. It's going to pour rain, and we may have another flood situation on our hands.
I was just going to ask you about the fact that this is on the West Coast now, but soon it could end up being a coast-to-coast problem.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the problems in the Northwest are going to be ending shortly. We still have 8 million people under flood watches. We still have flood warnings, but the rain is shifting and it's weakening. So as the storm begins to propagate and begins to move, we're watching it going through California now. Tomorrow it heads into the Four Corner region. So additional rainfall, but not too much in the big problems. As we head through the weekend, though, here it is Friday in the Rockies. Saturday, middle of the country, it explodes. It gets moisture out of the Gulf. Strong thunderstorms likely, a little snow in the backside. But Sunday's the day, Hallie, I'm more worried about. We could see thunderstorms on the East Coast. We could see 50 to 70 mile per hour winds in the coastal areas, power outages. And when it's 60 degrees in northern New England in December, that's not good. You can get a lot of problems from that.
Yeah, no kidding. Bill Cairns, thank you very much. A busy night, I know, for you. Appreciate it. Let's bring you back down here to Washington, where the math is not mathing for House Republicans after former Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he is going to resign from Congress. He's going to leave Congress at the end of the year. Watch.
Today, I am driven by the same purpose that I felt when I arrived in Congress. But now, it is time to pursue my passion in a new arena.
What exactly that new arena is, we still don't really know, but we do know this. This cannot be good news for the House Republicans and their already razor-thin majority shrinking fast. Remember, it's been less than a week since Republicans lost another one of its own members, George Santos. He got kicked out. This means the magic number is now 3. That is how many votes Republicans can afford to lose before they'd need help from Democrats to get pretty much anything done. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene summing up the mood, saying in a tweet today, I'm quoting her here, hopefully no one dies. McCarthy's soon-to-be vacant seat is safely red, right? So whoever replaces McCarthy likely to come from the GOP, but there will need to be a special election to fill this. NBC's Julie Sirkin is following this for us from Capitol Hill. So setting aside McCarthy's thought process here, because he was facing a deadline to make this decision coming up very soon, put in perspective just how tough the math is now over the next few months for House Republicans.
Well, in your words, Hallie, the math really isn't mathing, because as they're getting more and more losses on their side of the aisle, the agenda is becoming more and more difficult for the new House Speaker, Mike Johnson, to try and orchestrate, to try and pass anything. And as they get into January, they'll still have that 3-seat majority, as you laid out, because of some defections we're seeing, not only on the Republican side, but also on Democratic side as well. And so that makes things like passing appropriation spending bills, ones in which the hard right flank of the House Republican Party wants Johnson to try and keep to his promise in terms of budget cuts. Something like the national security supplemental proposal. I think we have a graphic, if we can put it up on your screen. But all of these things, all of these legislative items that Johnson is going to have a real problem getting across the aisle as he continues to lose more and more votes. Here's what Steve Scalise had to say earlier today. Remember, this is someone who actually served with McCarthy as part of his leadership team, now serves in Johnson's. Watch this.
Whether we had a 5-seat majority or a 2-seat majority, it's still going to be complicated, but it just means we got to be more unified, and I think it puts the focus on us staying unified.
More unified is not exactly something that's been easy for Republicans in the House to do. We'll see if they can potentially get more unified come the new year.
The other piece of this, too, Julie, and I'm going to do like a little bit of a step back here, a 30,000-foot view. I'm old enough to remember the Young Guns, this group who came in, was swept in, wanted to sort of revolutionize what it meant to be conservative. Kevin McCarthy, Paul Ryan, Eric Cantor, right? Former Speaker Paul Ryan, former Majority Leader Eric Cantor. Now you have Kevin McCarthy, who is leaving Congress, too. In many ways, it is the end of an era and symbolic of the start of this MAGA chapter for the Republican Party. And I say start, it's been MAGA for years, but especially with McCarthy out, it feels like a moment.
Yeah, exactly. Even in 2014, when Eric Cantor lost his primary to a little-known candidate who's kind of in the ranks of Trump, who, of course, came later. I mean, that was really the start of their sort of empire, so to speak, beginning to crumble. You really see this Trump populism taking shape here. When McCarthy got the gavel, not only did it take him so many rounds to get there, but, of course, he's been constantly fighting with the hard right of his party. And it came to the point now where, similar to the veins of Paul Ryan, he just called it quits. I should note, though, Hallie, this is somebody who said time and time again that he learned from his father to never give up. He seems to have given up his seat here in part, as he said, because he wants to do something else. He sees his future more effective in doing something else than staying in Congress. And by all accounts, we here expected him to make this kind of decision, to resign from Congress in all.
Julie Sirkin live for us on the Hill. Another busy day for you and your team, Julie. Thank you very much for that. Take you overseas, where Israel is stepping up its attacks inside southern Gaza tonight, now surrounding the city that's at the heart of the southern region, assaulting places where Israel says Hamas's top leaders are, but also where civilians have been crowded. Remember, where Israel asked people to get to for their own safety. The UN says the situation for people there is becoming increasingly apocalyptic, with food, water, medicine all running out again. And the State Department now saying Israel is not doing enough to let aid get in. To the north, all the health systems there, or I should say none of the health systems there are functioning. That's according to what officials are telling NBC News, as we're getting in some graphic video of one hospital. Leaders at another say its hospital is on the verge of closing. They still cannot bury more than 100 dead bodies, accusing Israeli forces of not letting them. NBC News has not verified independently those claims. All of it late today, as we're just learning Israel is considering flooding those Hamas tunnels with seawater using a big system of pumps. This is the latest signal of what Israel could do next. I want to bring in Hallie, who is live for us on the ground in Tel Aviv. Can you start with that new reporting here that's just coming into us? The potential for Israel to really go after this tunnel system that forms the foundation of the Hamas ability to get around, move around inside Gaza, making it difficult for forces to get to them.
Right. These reports are coming from U.S. officials speaking to NBC News. The Israeli Prime Minister's office, when the spokesperson for Benjamin Netanyahu was asked about these reports that the IDF was considering using seawater to flood the tunnel system, essentially said they don't comment on operational plans, but then added that this is a unique battlefield, seemingly opening the door to the notion that perhaps conventional tactics could be used in this case. But you mentioned that the Israeli military has gone deep into the southern part of the Gaza Strip, densely populated. It's got double its population density since the Israeli military asked the northern part of Gaza, residents there, to evacuate south. And now we're seeing airstrikes in Khan Yunis, where it's believed, according to the Israeli military, that the leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, had his command base, and where they say they have encircled his home, though the probability of Yahya Sinwar being in his home in Khan Yunis is frankly zero at this point. But we've been watching and fielding very graphic video of people who have been brought into hospitals in Rafah, in the very southern part of the Gaza Strip, with all sorts of life-threatening injuries, being brought into the hospital after Israeli airstrikes in that part of the Gaza Strip. So when humanitarian and aid agencies say that nowhere appears to be safe in that very narrow strip of land, the Palestinian civilians on the ground are saying that they certainly agree with that assessment and that they feel safe nowhere, Hallie.
And the Human Rights Watch is calling the evacuation orders that Israel gave in the south empty, essentially. Is there a safe place left for people to go in Gaza?
Well, given the fact that, for instance, Rafah is being bombed, and just so our viewers understand, this is really close to the border where some of the aid trucks come in and some of the evacuation of hostages took place, then really it doesn't appear as though there's anywhere safe, especially since the IDF has put together this grid pattern over the Gaza Strip. They are dropping leaflets and telling people to consult these interactive maps, but with communication blackouts and many individuals not able to charge their phones or even access these maps, it's extremely difficult to know where to go and where the bombs will be falling. Hallie.
Hallie live for us there in Tel Aviv. Hala, thank you very much. We are just learning the Justice Department, as it relates to a different war, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, is filing its first war crimes charges in connection with that, alleging that 4 Russian soldiers interrogated, beat, and tortured an American in Ukraine not involved in the war, even threatened to kill him in a mock execution. This comes as the Senate might vote on a key aid package for Ukraine and Israel any minute here, or at least a version of what they hope the bill would be. Still some questions on whether or not that's going to happen tonight, because lots of Republicans and Democrats do not see eye to eye on this. We told you just 24 hours ago, breaking news on this show then, about a meeting that devolved into a shouting match, essentially, so tense that some Republicans stormed out. And now President Biden, late today, is accusing lawmakers of turning their backs on Ukraine. Watch.
Frankly, I think it's stunning that we've gotten to this point in the first place. Well, Republicans in Congress are willing to give Putin the greatest gift he could hope for and abandon our global leadership, not just in Ukraine, but beyond that.
We've got team coverage tonight. Mike Memoli posted up at the White House, but I want to start with Ken Delaney on these war crimes charges. How significant are they, Ken, especially right now?
Deeply significant, Hallie. They're groundbreaking, really. This is the first time ever that this 30-year-old statute has been used to prosecute war crimes. And the victim here, an American citizen. And the facts of the case are gruesome, but sort of mundane in the context of the Ukraine war. Four Russian soldiers, or soldiers acting on behalf of Russia, are charged here. 2 officers who are named, and then 2 enlisted soldiers. They are charged with detaining this American for 10 days and torturing him, beating him, conducting mock executions, threatening to sexually assault him. What's significant about this is that the long arm of U.S. law enforcement, first of all, they found this guy, they interviewed him, they took his testimony, then they went and corroborated the allegations, and now they have named these people in an indictment. They're not in custody, obviously, but the 2 officers who have been identified better not travel anywhere that has an extradition agreement with the United States. And Attorney General Merrick Garland really said that this is only the beginning. There are other investigations into war crimes pending. Take a listen to Garland.
The Justice Department and the American people have a long memory. We will not forget the atrocities in Ukraine, and we will never stop working to bring those responsible to justice.
And Garland also disclosed for the first time today that the Justice Department is investigating alleged war crimes by Hamas in the October 7th attack on Israel. Hallie.
Ken Delaney, and thank you. Ma'am, I want to go to you here as we take a live look now, I believe, at the Senate floor, because still no vote on more funding for Ukraine, as President Biden is making very clear what he sees as the stakes here. Ma'am.
That's right, Hallie. In fact, this vote is about to be gavelled to a close. So far, all 49 Republicans and 1 independent, Bernie Sanders, have voted against this procedural vote to move forward with the president's plan to fund not just Ukraine, but also Israel, Taiwan, and a border security package. So what's happening here? The president was willing to put some border security measures on the table, as knowing that that was the price of admission for especially House Republicans, but also Senate Republicans. The president today really slamming those Republicans for, as he said it, kneecapping our national security by insisting on going even further than what the president proposed with what he said were extreme immigration measures. And so the hope is, even on the Republican side, that now that this initial test vote has failed, it's demonstrated that the president's proposal alone can't succeed, that the bipartisan negotiations that had been underway, including Senator Langford from Oklahoma, Senator Murphy from Connecticut, will find a spark to get back to the table here. There are some proposals that the White House has signaled that they're open to that are priorities for the Senate Republicans, including more strict asylum policies. But it's not yet clear if those are things that ultimately the White House will sign off on it. Now, seeing the president today was significant because he's trying to finally invest some political capital here on this issue. The problem, Hallie, is that a new CNN poll today released shows that he has very little of that political capital to spend. His approval rating is just 37%. And stepping back, really, it's worth noting this moment in time. The president has said that the U.S. support for Ukraine and keeping our allies on board with supporting Ukraine in its fight against Russia is one of the things he's proudest of in his time in office. And now all of this is being held up because of what has been the most vexing, the most challenging domestic policy issue, that is, of course, immigration.
Mike Memoli, thank you very much. A lot of action there as well at the White House. Appreciate it. Coming up, we're going to keep an eye on what's happening out west with that shooting at UNLV. Multiple victims, we're told, police saying the suspect is dead. Plus, the National Transportation Safety Board holding its first ever summit on mental health for pilots after some pretty terrifying incidents in the cockpit. Why the board says what's happening right now currently is simply not enough screening. Plus, Diddy, Sean Combs, facing a brand new lawsuit tonight. We'll tell you how he's responding in just a minute. As the grand jury is now deciding not to charge the off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot who was apparently on mushrooms, accused of trying to crash a plane in Oregon with attempted murder. The jury choosing to indict him on misdemeanor counts of endangerment instead, with the National Transportation Safety Board as the backdrop here, now hosting its first ever summit, focusing on the mental health crisis so many pilots and crew members face, saying a culture of silence in the aviation industry is affecting safety. Listen.
No one should have to think twice about their job before seeking help. And yet here we are today because that's not currently the case in aviation.
Tom Costello is following all this for us. He is joining us now. Significant today that the NTSB is taking this step, right? Focusing on mental health and how it relates to aviation safety more broadly. Question is, what's going to come of it, right? What kind of changes could we see?
I think the bottom line is the pressure's building on the FAA to do something, right? I mean, keep in mind the NTSB is a safety, essentially they're the ones who say we got a problem. It's the FAA that does something about it, hopefully. Well, the bottom line is we've now got a whole country for months now talking about mental health for various reasons. You mentioned the Joseph Emerson case with Alaska Airlines. And then today we heard about this 19-year-old kid by the name of John Hauser, a student at the University of North Dakota, loved flying, wanted to be a pilot, a commercial airline pilot, went to the University of North Dakota, a great aviation program, took a plane up in the air, and then he texted his mom and dad and said goodbye. Listen to his mom.
I want to seek help more than anything. I really do. I want to get better. I just know if I try, I will have to give up on aviation.
That's the bottom line here that we have heard from many in the pilot community. If they self-report that they have a mental health issue, that they need help, that they're on meds, then the FAA usually is going to pull their medical certificate and they can't fly. And getting that certificate back again can be very, very difficult. So this kid never even got the chance to be a commercial airline pilot. He did not seek help. His parents didn't know he had a problem. He was too afraid to seek the help, and then that would be on his record. So this is all part of the NTSB and the FAA now saying we got to do something about this. We got to drop the stigmatization about having a mental health issue, and we've got to loosen up the rules a little bit because this is not the 1950s. You can be on medicines for certain mental health issues, anxiety, depression, you name it, and you can function properly with help.
And there is such a nexus here to the story that I think so many people remember, that off-duty pilot who was on a jump seat in the cockpit and apparently tried to yank a handle to try to potentially take down the plane, rather. The New York Times did an extensive profile of him, spoke with his wife, and according to the paper, he texted his group of friends when he was on the plane, I'm quoting here, "I'm having a mental breakdown," and tried to turn off both engines on my flight home. He said to his wife via text, "I've made a big mistake." I was struck in reading this, Tom, that his wife had talked about how her husband didn't even want to take anything stronger than allergy pills because he didn't want to jeopardize his aviation career if he took a medicine for his mental health struggles.
Listen, it used to be you could not even take medication for cholesterol, right? That's changed. The FAA is changing, but it's glacial speed. And listen to this stat. It was just mind-boggling today. The FAA has to then have their psychiatrists go through and approve everybody who is trying to get recertified, right? They've seen doctors, they're better, they're certified to be better, but there are only 4 psychiatrists at the FAA, 4, that can go through a years-long, backlog. And so as a result, if you're a pilot right now, you can understand why you would not self-report and seek help.
Tom Costello, thank you so much for that important reporting on a beat that you know so well. Appreciate it. We're going to look for more of it tonight on NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. That's 6:30 Eastern, wherever you get your local NBC station. Do not miss it. Let's get you over to the 5 things now our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, an American man is facing charges over comments online that allegedly incited what's been described as a religiously motivated terror attack in Australia. 6 people were killed in that shooting last December. The American's name is not being released, but the FBI and Australian law enforcement officials say their investigations are not over. Number 2, Sean Combs, Diddy, he is responding to a new lawsuit that accuses him and 2 others of gang raping a 17-year-old girl in 2003. This is the 4th suit filed against Combs over the last few weeks. He says, I'm quoting here, that he did not do any of the awful things being alleged. Number 3, a new study says couples share a lot more than secrets and snacks. Add high blood pressure to the list. Researchers found middle-aged and older adults could be more likely to have high blood pressure if your partner also has it. One of the people behind the study suggests that folks who support and depend on each other could end up having their health sync up, essentially. Number 4, McDonald's announcing a Big Mac of an expansion. They're planning to open 10,000 or so restaurants over the next 4 years, 900 of them in the U.S., a couple thousand more in China. The company says with super high delivery demand, it's so important to get restaurants even closer to customers. Number 5, Taylor Swift has enchanted all of us, so no surprise, Time magazine has named her Person of the Year this year. She beat out Barbie. She beat out King Charles. She beat out the prosecutors who are making the case against former President Trump. Taylor told Time that she is the proudest and the happiest she's ever felt. She also, of course, talked about that romance with Travis Kelce. When we come back, some new warnings tonight in San Diego after delivery trucks were robbed, some even at gunpoint. Plus, the 4th Republican debate is set to start just a few hours from now. And you know one thing taking center stage, probably? Comments from one candidate who won't even be there. That's next. Four contenders for the Republican nomination. 4 candidates are going to be on stage tonight at the 4th Republican debate, the smallest stage yet. And it's small because you know who's not going to be there again? This guy, former President Donald Trump, who happens to be the front runner, just stomping the competition here. He's going to be turning himself toward the general election with a private fundraiser in Florida instead. Still, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, Vivek Ramaswamy are all going to be in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and they're probably going to be asked about this statement that former President Trump made just 24 hours ago, not even. Listen.
We love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border, and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator, okay?
Dictator on day one. Hallie Vitale is joining us now. Hallie, you know, this is a moment where there is some real concern, especially you're seeing it from, for example, the Biden camp, that Donald Trump is saying out loud what some of his critics most fear, that he will become more and more authoritarian if he does end up winning the White House again. There is also a nexus to where you're standing now, right? Because Donald Trump is far and away the Republican front runner here. So far, none of this has hurt him with Republican voters so far. So what are these candidates on stage going to do to try to change that dynamic? And how much do you think this dictator comment is going to factor in?
Well, look, I think what's striking here is that Donald Trump made a pretty politically savvy decision in deciding not to show up to these debates because it allows him to float above the field. He's consistently still polling 30 in states like Iowa and 40 nationally, points ahead of the rest of the crowd. And everyone else is in a food fight on stage, but they can't take on the person who they actually have to get through to win the nomination. It underscores even more the power that Trump has over his party when you consider the fact that he's not here, he's not participating, and also he's still the person that everyone is talking about and that everyone has to respond to, especially with these latest comments. That's what former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie was doing with our colleague Shaq Brewster. Here's what he said about it. Watch.
I think he intends on being a dictator for all the days of his presidency. He's made it very clear in previous comments that he was going to get the Justice Department on his watch against his enemies, get the IRS after his enemies. I took it partially seriously. He's right, you know, and he's telling the truth.
So Christie certainly echoing, frankly, what we've heard from the Biden campaign, making it a bipartisan criticism. And I'm interested in seeing whether or not other Republicans on the stage tonight decide to go at Trump for this, espousing, frankly, anti-small d Democratic values and saying that he would be a dictator for however long a period of time.
What else are you interested in seeing? In other words, give us the viewer's guide for tonight for folks who are going to be tuning in.
Yeah, whether or not people go after Nikki Haley and the fashion with which they do that. The reason that there's a target on her back, and my sources within the campaign have said this time and again, they know the DeSantis campaign sees her as their biggest threat. She's eclipsed DeSantis in several polls. Certainly everyone is seeing that. And you do want to be in second, despite the fact that second doesn't get you the nomination. All of these campaigns know that they have to beat each other in order to go at Trump. Haley is certainly the one with the momentum at her back, but the way in which she interacts with Vivek Ramaswamy consistently, those have been tense, fiery moments. You got to imagine we're going to see more of that tonight on the stage, too.
Hallie Vitale, you've got a front row seat to all of it. Thank you very much for that. We're going to have post-debate coverage afterwards right here with a special edition of Meet the Press with Kristen Welker. That's tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern, right here, however you're watching on NBC News Now. NBC covers hundreds of other stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Southern Bureau, the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts is returning dozens of pieces of stolen art, ancient objects that came from places like Egypt, Turkey, Italy. That's after a huge investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney into stolen and looted art in America. Out of our Western Bureau, check out the security footage from San Diego showing 4 people grabbing a bunch of packages. Do you see that out of the back of a FedEx truck? Police say that same night somebody tried to carjack a different FedEx truck, and 5 people robbed an Amazon truck at gunpoint. Officials are not sure at this point if all those crimes are connected. And out of our Northeast Bureau, the world's biggest menorah is up and ready to be lit tomorrow night for Hanukkah. That's a 36-foot-tall menorah outside New York City's Plaza Hotel. It's going to be lit each night of Hanukkah at sundown, so all 8 nights to celebrate the Festival of Lights. Coming up, some new bombshell allegations tonight against Facebook and Instagram. Why a new lawsuit calls the platforms a breeding ground for people preying on little kids. A bombshell and wildly disturbing new lawsuit paints a gruesome picture, alleging Instagram and Facebook exposed children to sexual exploitation, making the platforms, in the lawsuit's words, a breeding ground for predators. New Mexico's Attorney General filed this civil suit. He claims Meta, which of course is the parent company of those sites, recommends accounts to children that promote things like buying child pornography or engaging in human trafficking. The suit also alleges the algorithm is set up in a way that keeps promoting this, and the state says it found this out through its own investigation, where it set up several fake accounts to essentially go undercover to see what's going on. One of the accounts, posing as a mother, hinting that she was looking to sex traffic her supposedly 13-year-old daughter. None of those posts were flagged by Facebook, they say. That so-called daughter, in that instance, also had an account which received offers to be a sugar baby from an adult. The state says Facebook also offered to set up a professional account for that fake girl, which would have meant that both the account and Meta could have potentially profited from it. I want to bring in now Kate Snow. And Kate, this lawsuit is not saying that Meta is liable as the publisher of this kind of material, but that, and I'm quoting here, it cultivates an atmosphere for creation and proliferation of harmful content. Tell us more.
Yeah, there's a lot in this complaint, Hallie, and frankly, a lot of the images no one wants to look at. This undercover investigation went on for several months, as you said, these decoy accounts that they created. You just mentioned the investigator who pretended to be a mom with a fictitious daughter. Well, they made another account as a friend of that daughter, 12 years old, fake account. From the start, that 12-year-old was recommended content that was largely sexual, images of masturbation, even the suggestion that she visit the explicit site OnlyFans, 12 years old. The Attorney General's office says they found that the decoy children were served and directed to a, quote, stream of egregious sexually explicit images, even when the child expressed no interest in that. They found that kids were encouraged to join unmoderated Facebook groups devoted to facilitating commercial sex. They also allege in this suit that dozens of adults found, contacted, and tried to persuade the people that they thought were children to send them sexually explicit photos or participate in pornography. The Attorney General's office, Hallie, spoke with a survivor of being exploited, a real-life survivor who was exploited as a minor. And this person said, it's hard to describe what it feels like to know that at any given moment, someone somewhere is looking at images of me as a child being sexually abused and getting sick gratification from it. It's like I'm being abused over and over and over again. The AG says Meta is allowing all of this to happen for profit. That's their argument. The suit says Meta executives, including Mark Zuckerberg, are aware of the serious harm of their products, Hallie, and not doing enough to make changes and not prioritizing engagement. Rather, they are prioritizing engagement, they say, over ad revenue. Ad revenue over Sorry, one more time. Engagement and ad revenue over safety. They're making money over safety.
I get what you're saying here. I get the allegations here that this lawsuit lays out. The question is, what is Meta saying, right? How are they responding to that?
Yeah, so Meta has responded in a statement. A Meta spokesperson says to us, child exploitation is a horrific crime and online predators are determined criminals. We use sophisticated technology, hire child safety experts, report content to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and share information and tools with other companies and law enforcement, including state attorneys general, to help root out predators. In 1 month alone, we disabled, they say, more than 500,000 accounts for violating our child safety policies. I will say, though, Hallie, the AG's office says that right before they filed this complaint, roughly half of the reported content, stuff they had reported, was still up, they say.
A lot of people have had concerns about this. We know that some of these big tech CEOs have been called in to try to testify in a Senate hearing related to online child exploitation next month. What's your sense of where this goes from here, the steps moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big hearing. Senate Judiciary Committee, it's January 31st. We're talking about Dick Durbin, the Democrat, Republican Lindsey Graham. They say the CEOs of X, Discord, and Snapchat are going to be there only because they were subpoenaed. They say the CEOs of Meta and TikTok voluntarily agreed to come. And they want to talk about failures in protecting kids. And they're pointing to at least 5 proposed bipartisan bills in the Senate right now aimed at stopping exploitation of kids, various different ways. Look, Hallie, I don't have to tell you how hard it is to get anything done in Congress right now. You know that better than anyone. But if there is one issue where there's common ground, it is this. So potentially Congress could take some action in the future. I think the harder part of lawsuits is that, as we know, oftentimes media companies argue that they are protected by a federal statute that says they're not legally responsible for what people say on their platforms.
Kate Snow, thank you so much for that breakdown and that important reporting. Appreciate it. You can catch Kate Snow, by the way, anchoring on NBC News Now daily, weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Kate and Zinkley every single day on broadcast and right here on News Now. Still to come, the AI race is really heating up tonight, and from a company that's not totally known for AI. We'll tell you why Google's trying to up its game next. Google today stepping more into a space it's kind of been struggling in, and that is AI, trying to up its game with the launch of Gemini. This is basically a new AI model that Google calls its most capable one yet. It's going to be rolled out in phases to boost Google's current chatbot called Bard. If you have a Google Pixel Pro, a version of it may already be on your phone. Google is specifically shouting out Gemini's problem-solving skills and showing this example. Check this out.
You are trying to get me to find the paper ball under the cup. I accept the challenge. The cup to the left.
Nice. Did you get that right? The version with all the fanciest features isn't going to come out until early next year, but I want to bring in CNBC tech reporter Jennifer Elias with us now. So what's so interesting here, there's already AI out there, right? A lot of people are already using AI on the reg. So why would they use Google's instead? What's the incentive to switch over here?
Well, Hallie, Google says this is the most powerful, capable AI model that exists right now, and even more so in some cases it outperforms the most advanced that exists, which is GPT-4. So many people and companies who want to use this, maybe they have tasks in math or complex problems, image recognition, something that requires a lot of data. They may want to use this. We got a demo of a student using Gemini to actually identify a very complex physics problem that it actually pointed out the mistakes in it and why it was a mistake. So there's that. And then, it's also, the company also says this is its safest testing that it's done. So, if someone's concerned about safety, hallucinations, bad information coming out of it, they could try this, though, we don't know for sure yet. We haven't had enough time with it. And then finally, the AI is not a winner-takes-all market yet. So there's room for kind of people to use more AI models.
ChatGPT already has its most advanced version out already, and it has more name recognition in the AI space, it seems. So is Google late to the game? Are they trying to take advantage of some of that open AI drama? And how much pressure is Google, these other big tech companies, under to try to be a leader in this space?
Right. Well, Google does appear to be behind in terms of actually launching a product. They've had the technology, but Hallie, compared to OpenAI, this is a larger company, more bureaucracy, moves slower, and has a lot of public scrutiny right now. So they're going to be slow at launching these things. And then, right now is a good time for them, as we saw with some drama around OpenAI the last couple of weeks with the board ousting its CEO and then reinstating it. A lot of companies we found in our reporting have been looking for alternates. And so, what better time to launch their alternate today and before the end of the year.
Jennifer Elias, thank you very much over at CNBC. Really appreciate it. Thanks for doing this for us.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for this hour. Coverage picks up right now. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and we are coming on the air tonight with that mass shooting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, with sources telling NBC News that multiple people have been killed. It is still not clear exactly how many. There's only one number we've heard from the sheriff, and that is that there are 3 victims, although the extent of their injuries are not known at this point. Officials also say the suspected shooter is dead as well. We don't know if police killed him or if he died by suicide. There's been a huge law enforcement response to this. You can see it right here. Those SWAT trucks making their way to the scene. Police snipers on the roof of a campus building, too, as they lock down that area. We've got team coverage of this with multiple developments, even in just the last hour. Emily Aketa and Tom Winter are following this for us, I should say. Emily, let me start with you because we have been getting a couple of updates, mostly from Las Vegas Metro PD, about the situation, about the victims. Walk us through it.
Well, Hallie, they acknowledge that this is a very fluid situation. We know the FBI, U.S. Marshals, local police, campus police, this is an all-hands-on-deck approach to this active investigation. And what is happening right now is authorities are continuing to go from building to building. They're acknowledging this is a large campus, trying to evacuate people and make sure there are not additional victims. We know that the suspect is deceased. In the news conference we heard from police, they said they arrived responding to reports of an active shooter near Beam Hall when they immediately, they say, engaged the suspect. We don't know if the suspect died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound or whether it was from police responding. We also know that police are reporting that there are 3 victims. They wouldn't say their condition at this hour, but separately we are learning from law enforcement sources rather that multiple people were killed in this incident. Furthermore, we know that they are underscoring the point that there is no further threat at this hour. The motive still very much unknown as they begin to dig into the question of that we all want to know, which of course is why. A couple of updates, Hallie, since the last hour when we spoke to you. We know that the ground stop has been lifted at the nearby airport. We are beginning to see some major roadways reopened, but many schools in the area have been closed as this active scene continues to play out. I want you to take a listen to the chaos and confusion that we've heard from witnesses and witnesses' loved ones in the wake of the shooting. Take a listen.
We came out here and then she finally called and texted and says that they're in a dorm. She was crying. She was hysterical, saying she heard the gunshot, she heard the screaming, and they're putting her in a dorm.
And now they've moved her, you said?
And they moved her again right now in a room with all the lights off, and they don't know what's happening.
At one point earlier today, campus police instructing people on campus, remember roughly 30,000 people attend this university, to, quote, run, hide, and fight, to give you a sense of those tense moments that have played out throughout the day, Hallie.
Emily, thank you. I want you to stand by for a second. And Tom, I want to get over to you because we heard from police just about an hour and change ago. We expect to hear from them again in about 2 hours from now, so 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock West Coast time. What is the most important information that you are hoping to hear from them? I think there are crucial details, as Emily notes, that we have not nailed down yet, including exactly who was killed, how many people were killed, what happened, any motive, what else?
And law enforcement officials are starting to be briefed on that information, Hallie, but as you can appreciate and understand, and I hope that the audience appreciates and understands and has patience with this, we really want to be sure, particularly when we name somebody, that we've done the best to our human ability to make sure that that information is correct. But some more details are starting to come through, both on the death toll, which I hope is something that we can get further clarified. It appeared to me that the sheriff was indicating that 3 people were in fact killed, perhaps besides the shooter, but that's still in a little bit of flux at this time. We are saying at this point that the shooter died, as well as at least 2 other individuals, and we're hoping to get more clarity there. The numbers are important. It's not a scorecard thing for us. We're talking about either staff or students at this university, and so, of course, it's important to the parents. I think motive is very key here. There's just so much tension between what people are talking about with political rhetoric, what people are talking about with respect to the Middle East after Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th and the heightened threat environment that the FBI director and NYPD and other law enforcement agencies have talked about since that day. So I think folks really want to figure out, why did this happen? Could there be any sort of follow-on threats at other institutions across the country? We haven't heard that. And to be clear, the sheriff did say that they have absolutely no idea what the motive is at this point. We did look earlier, myself and my colleagues, to see if there were any sort of planned protests or events at UNLV today that could have been a spark for somebody to try to to commit violence. We haven't been able to see that. That's not an absolute confirmation that there was nothing going on, but at least there's nothing that's readily apparent to us. So all of those types of things that I just touched on would be helpful to get further clarity from law enforcement. We're looking at the pictures. We have been for the last hour or two here, the images coming in, and obviously a chaotic scene. And I'm sure that the officials there who've dealt with, of course, one of the worst shootings in modern American history, the 2017 shooting by Stephen Paddock at a Mandalay Bay concert, a country music concert held there that killed 60. Unfortunately, the Las Vegas Metro Police Department has a lot of experience with this, and I'm expecting more information soon.
Tom, I'm going to ask you to stand by for just a minute because I want to bring in now Dr. Jaewon Lim. He's an associate professor at UNLV. Dr. Lim, thank you so much for being with us. Let me just ask you, it looks like you're still in your office. Are you somewhere safe?
Yeah, I'm in a safe location. I'm in my office locked in.
Are you still under lockdown at this point?
Yes, because I got the updated text message from the University Police Department. Stay in shelter and continue to stay in shelter for the last about 2 hours.
Is the expectation that at some point you will evacuate your building?
Yeah, the first text message I got around 11:51 in the morning in Pacific time. That was the first message from University Police Department, evacuate the building. But I missed the text message because I was in the middle of the meeting with my students, away from my phone. But the next message says, stay in shelter, continue to stay in shelter, because my building is right next to the student union at UNLV, and just a couple of minutes walking distance from the BEH building where the shooting started. And I started to pay attention to the updates.
Well, that was my question. Were those text updates your first clue that something was going so wrong on campus? How did you know? Did you hear anything? Did you see anything? Did your students tell you anything?
Yeah, actually, after I checked the message a couple of minutes afterwards, I was able to look through the window. As I told you, my building is right next to the student union, and the students from the there were a group of students rushing out of the student union and crossing the street in Maryland Parkway outside the campus. And I checked the text message again and what's going on, and it shows that there's an active shooter on campus. That's how I realized that. The situation.
How much had you thought about the possibility of a campus shooting prior to this happening, as it has become, as we know here, the grim and horrific reality for so many schools in this country?
Well, I mean, as a local here in Las Vegas, we experienced the 1 October shooting with 58 victims. And the campus-wide, the students and faculty members and the community members had a tragic experience back in 2018 with the 1 October. But, we hear this type of shooting incidents around the campus and university campuses and the different communities. But we rarely thought this would happen right next to our building. And it was actually a scary moment.
I can only imagine. What kind of conversations have you been having with the students that are in the area where you are now?
Yeah, so I was having a meeting with my PhD student about his work, but we get the updated text message from the University Police. It's safe to stay where we are, and then he's an international student, so this is really a horrific experience as a first-year international students in the U.S. And then this is really, this is not what he expected. However, I'm just trying to calm him down, and then we are in a safe location, and then I think this situation is under control right now. And then I think the University Police is doing really wonderful job to control the situation and then keep us up to date on time.
Dr. Jaewon Lim, we are so glad that you are safe. We really appreciate your time, and we're hoping that you'll be able to get home safely soon. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Let me go back now to NBC's Tom Winter, who has been joining us. And you heard that account there from Dr. Lim. It's coming as we are now hearing from a senior White House official that President Biden has been briefed on the shooting at UNLV.
That's right, as well as from our colleague Ken Delanian, that the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, also briefed on this. This is something that typically happens. I mean, I think certainly anytime there's a school shooting from elementary to college in this country, typically the president is briefed on those types of things, and certainly the Attorney General as well. The Justice Department notes that the ATF and FBI are on the scene to assist. I think that's important. If we hear that they're taking over the investigation, then that might point us towards possibly a motive of hate or terrorism. And of course, that could occur at some point. We just don't know what the motive is, and police have said on the record they don't either. So that is all kind of typical at this stage. But when you think about it, Hallie, this has all become a little too systemic, a little too common, that there's such a reporting mechanism in place that people in the law enforcement community across the country are briefed on these things. The president's briefed. The attorney general is briefed. It's just it's a well-oiled machine to deal with a tragedy like this.
Tom Winter, thank you very much for that. I know you're going to keep us posted on any updates if we get them in the next little bit. Appreciate it. We've also got some new details tonight in Texas about a shooting spree there, with somebody now in police custody, suspected of going on this 8-hour, essentially, rampage across multiple cities that left 6 people dead, 3 others hurt. The suspect, now identified, is facing charges of capital murder in these shootings that stretched from San Antonio to Austin. You can see it on the map there. The first call came in just before 11 o'clock in the morning local time yesterday, and it took like 8 hours for this person to be arrested, according to Austin police, after he crashed his car while speeding away from a shootout with the police officer that left them with injuries. They were shot multiple times. Squad Venegas is joining us now, so lots of new details coming into us tonight about what happened here. What do we know, and where does this go?
So, Hallie, the first information we got was from Austin police. We know that, as you mentioned, it was several incidents around the Austin area. First, there was an officer that was shot near a school, and then there was a shooting inside a home where 2 people were found dead. Then another person was shot. This was a cyclist. After that, there was another shooting inside a second home. 2 other people were found dead. An officer was also shot at that location. So in the Austin area, 4 people were found dead and 3 different individuals were shot. Now, after that, authorities from Austin contacted authorities in Bexar County. This is south of Austin in the San Antonio area, because they had associated the suspect with an address there. And the sheriff sent deputies to that address, where they found 2 more people deceased. Now, today, the sheriff in Bexar County is sharing more information on the suspect. They have now done some more research into this, and they believe that the 2 people found dead in Bexar County could be the suspect's parents. They also shared information on the suspect, saying that in January of 2022, he had been arrested in Bexar County for assaulting family members. They believe he would have assaulted back then his parents and also one of his siblings. So all of this information coming from the sheriff in Bexar County, south of Austin, in the San Antonio area, where 2 people were found dead and they are believed to be his parents, while the Austin Police Department is looking into the other shootings in the Austin area, where, again, 2 different homes had 2 people were found dead in each home, and also 2 police officers were injured, as well as a cyclist. So several different incidents with 2 police agencies looking into this, Hallie.
Squad Venegas, thank you very much for that reporting. Appreciate it. Let's take you out west now, where the Pacific Northwest is getting totally slammed with record-breaking rain, floods pouring through the area, with 2 people now dead in these storms. Look at this. This is a Coast Guard helicopter rescue mission. So you see the orange there, the 2 people in orange? They're literally pulling this guy from the roof of his car. He had gotten caught up, apparently, in just a ton of flood water while driving through. So they went to get him. They flew him, basically pulled him up to safety, as you see there in that very dramatic video. You've got flood warnings in effect for areas near about a dozen rivers, with some 8 million people in Washington, Oregon, and Northern California under alert. We told you this storm system has turned deadly. The 2 people killed were believed to have drowned in creeks. It is such a mess right now with these multiple systems tearing through. Look at this. You can see floodwaters in Washington state, landslides downing huge trees, cars trying to make their way through roads, houses just wrecked. The region is also seeing really warm temperatures. That is a big factor in the Pacific Northwest, with Seattle hitting a record daily high of 59 degrees in the last 24 hours. With 2023 now the warmest year on record. I want to bring in meteorologist Bill Cairns. We referenced the temperatures in Seattle and in the Pacific Northwest because it's melting all of the snow, and that is part of what's contributing to the concern about these rivers rising, about this River flooding here. Talk to us about the forecast, because this is in the west right now, but it could be coast to coast in just a few days.
Yeah, the good news is coming from the northwest. We're going to get a couple more storms, but nothing like the last two. And the flood watches in the last 10 minutes were just dropped. So Seattle, Portland, no longer under flood watches. The flood watches go from Bacchus Bay southwards, Crescent City, and then the northern coast here of California. And that'll go till tomorrow morning, because we still do have some heavy rain in that area. But even there, things are looking better. So there's the first storm, a weaker storm coming into on Thursday, and then a one behind that also. So we're not done, but we're not going to see anything close to what we just dealt with. So that storm that hit the west coast is going to move through the middle of the country. Saturday and Sunday are the days that we're going to have some problems. We're expecting a severe weather outbreak possible here from Houston to Memphis. It's a couple days away, so we're not going to pinpoint tornadoes or anything like that. But if you live in this area from Little Rock to Shreveport, Alexandria, Lake Charles, and areas right along the Mississippi River, you have to keep an eye out on Saturday, chance of some severe storms. So on Friday, everything is kind of quiet. That storm is moving through the mountain west with a little bit of snow, and then the storm really breaks out and gets a lot stronger here on Saturday. And then Sunday, this reaches the East Coast, heavy rain, gusty winds, and some snow in the Great Lakes in the backside of that.
The climate change factor appears to be undeniable here, Bill.
Well, I mean, we know that this is going to go down as the warmest year we've ever recorded. That's partially because of El Nino, and also partially because of, obviously, all the fossil fuels and what we put into our atmosphere. So we know that here's our top 10 list for the warmest years ever, and this is where this year is going to be. We know it's going to beat 2016. We just don't know by how much. So that's one way we keep track of all this climate stuff and the influences of it. The other way is our billion-dollar weather disasters in this country. And so far this year, we've had $24 billion weather disasters, the most ever in a single year. And 3 of the last 4 years have had 20-plus events. It used to be common to have like 10 to 11. So we're getting a lot more of these categories. And so far this year, about $7 billion in flooding. That doesn't include what just happened yesterday. Winter weather, about $2 billion. Drought and heat waves, $4 billion. Wildfires. We actually had a pretty quiet wildfire season this year, but still $6 billion worth damage. Tropical storms, these haven't been added up yet. We only had 2 make landfall. It wasn't as bad as some previous years, but severe weather, $48 billion. So, Hallie, we have numerous ways of keeping track of these things, and all of them are telling us that things are getting more wild. More billion-dollar weather disasters, warmest that we've ever seen, and there's no reason why that's going to stop.
Bill Cairns, that is comprehensive. Thank you very much for walking us through all of that. I really appreciate it. I want to get now to some developing news here. We just told you about that shooting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. We are now hearing from President Biden himself in a statement. I want to bring in our White House correspondent, Mike Memoli, who is standing by with more on that. It looks pretty lengthy, Mike. I'm just looking at it here. Talk us through it.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. This statement is not just about the most recent shooting incident in Las Vegas, but also what we were covering overnight, the shootings in Austin, Texas. The president once again thanking first responders for their quick response, saying he and the First Lady are mourning with those who are now grieving the loss of a loved ones. But then we saw in this long statement, as you point out, him pivot to the issue of gun safety, one that has been a top priority for his administration. And I'll read you now some of what the president says in this statement. He said, "This year alone, our nation has experienced more than 600 mass shootings and approximately 40,000 deaths due to gun violence." The president going on to say that for all the action we have taken since I've been president, the epidemic of gun violence we face demands that we do even more, but we cannot do more without Congress. Republican lawmakers must join with Democrats in Congress to ban assault weapons. That has been the rallying cry from President Biden from the moment that he signed that bipartisan piece of legislation, a rare bipartisan piece of legislation and a breakthrough on the issue of gun safety after the Uvalde massacre. As he was signing that bill, the president calling for more action on the assault weapons ban, something, of course, he signed into law, or he helped pass when he was a senator and saw that expire. And it's going to be a big part of his campaign message. The president just returning a few moments ago, Hallie, from a fundraiser here just a few blocks away, where he once again seized on Donald Trump as well and talked about him as a threat to our democracy.
Ma'am, then when you look at what the president has said over the course of the time he's been in office, when you look at where this statement is right now and the issues that he brings up, there is obviously a nexus to what's happening on Pennsylvania Avenue on Capitol Hill. And while the president is calling for legislative change here and has called for that, you point out the important reality on the ground of that, which is very little appetite. And I wonder if that even becomes less of an appetite as we head into a critical campaign year.
Yeah, that's right. When you think about the array of issues that the president will be campaigning on, first and foremost, what we've been hearing from the campaign at this point in a very early stage in their advertising has been about the president's economic record, right? Talking about the pieces of legislation that he signed into law that have made things like prescription drugs a little bit more affordable. That obviously will continue to evolve over the course of the campaign, and advocates for stronger gun safety measures have really taken the initiative over the last few years to put this front and center as a voting issue itself. They think that this is a particular winning issue in battleground districts, in suburban areas, but we've seen crime and public safety also emerge as a key Republican talking point, one that's also been successful in some local races as well. So it will be interesting to see this as it plays out over the course of the campaign. One thing I should mention, Hallie, as well, as it relates to the president's statement on the shootings overnight and today in Las Vegas, the president was actually scheduled to travel to Las Vegas. At this point, the White House has not indicated whether that trip will go on as planned. It was part of what was supposed to be an economic-focused event. Perhaps now he will use that visit to maybe meet with some of those who have been affected by the shooting as he travels further west also for some fundraising as well, Hallie.
And Mike, our eagle-eyed viewers may notice that at the bottom of the screen, it now reads, as we are getting some new reporting in, that sources are confirming to NBC News that at least 3 people have been killed, according to what we are learning here at NBC News. That had been a question, as you may know, earlier in the broadcast. The sheriff had confirmed that there were 3 victims. The extent of their injuries were unknown, but obviously this is a deadly shooting. We will expect to hear more from police in just a couple of hours, just about 90 minutes from now. You'll watch it here live on NBC News Now when we hear from officials on that. Mike Bemily, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Elsewhere in Washington, we'll take you up to Capitol Hill, where the math is not mathing for House Republicans after former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he's going to resign from Congress at the end of the year. Watch.
Today, I am driven by the same purpose that I felt when I arrived in Congress. But now, it is time to pursue my passion in a new arena.
What exactly the new arena is, we don't know, but we do know that this is not great news for the House Republicans' already razor-thin majority that is shrinking fast. Remember, it's only been less than a week since Republicans lost another one of its own members, George Santos, who got kicked out of Congress. That means that there are only 3 votes, just 3 votes, that the House Speaker can afford to lose before Republicans will need help from Democrats to get, like, anything done, pretty much. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, in a tweet summing up the mood, saying, in her words, hopefully no one dies. McCarthy's soon-to-be vacant seat is safely red, meaning whoever succeeds him will probably be a member of the Republican Party, but it's going to be months until the state can hold a special election to fill it. NBC's Julie Sirkin is following this one for us from Capitol Hill. And it was interesting to me to hear somebody else whose name was in the mix for this speakership, Steve Scalise, say, hey, listen, yes, acknowledging the math is hard. However, we've just got to be unified. Unification is not the word that has described this Republican conference over the course of the last year. And I say that simply based on the drama of the speakership being vacated, the drama of what happened with George Santos, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be really hard to imagine that the party can be any more unified than they attempted to be over the last couple of months, especially as this vote margin just shrinks and shrinks more and more as we continue to lose not only McCarthy, not only Santos, but it seems like we are losing pretty good amount of members who are either retiring, resigning, some moderates who are just tired of the way this place works or doesn't work. It's not clear what McCarthy is going to do next, but it is clear he's going to leave at the end of this month, and come January, of course, House Republicans, Speaker Mike Johnson, the new speaker who took over for him, are going to have a lot of problems, a lot of calculations to make as to how to keep their party unified, to pass everything from appropriations bills, long-term funding measures, anything like messaging bills, which we know Republicans have had a tough time doing even in the last couple of weeks. They aren't even able to coalesce around partisan bills, ones that don't even require any help from the other side of the aisle. Those we've watched in the last few weeks have been pulled off the floor, not even getting to a vote. I want you to take a listen to that full bite from Steve Scalise, what he told us earlier. Watch this.
Whether we had a 5-seat majority or a 2-seat majority, it's still going to be complicated, but it just means we got to be more unified, and I think it puts the focus on us staying unified.
Yeah, so Scalise obviously served with Kevin McCarthy as a member of his leadership team, even ran for Speaker himself, now serving with the new Speaker Mike Johnson.
It is the end of an era in some ways, because I think people might remember about a decade ago, it was Kevin McCarthy, former House Speaker Paul Ryan, former Majority Leader Eric Cantor, who appeared on the cover of a book as the Republican Young Guns, right? This whole idea, you see it there, that they were like the new fresh faces of the GOP. Now here we are, end of 2023. All of them will be out of Congress by the new year.
Exactly, yeah. When they came to power, when this book was written, when you see them on the cover there, I mean, these were the guys who came in to challenge the establishment. These were the guys who were coming up from the bottom. They were in leadership. Paul Ryan, of course, was Speaker, as was McCarthy. Eric Cantor served as Majority Leader of his party. But we see with McCarthy exiting here that all three were really taken down by the MAGA wing, the Trump voters, the populist wing of the party that only seems to be growing. It started back in 2014 when Cantor lost his primary against somebody who adhered to more of the Tea Party movement. Now we're seeing this trend sort of continue, of course, ending in McCarthy being ousted by the handful of conservatives, those that back the former president MAGA agenda. And now McCarthy leaving altogether, saying he just can't get anything done in this Congress. But he did say that his political chapter is not closed. His congressional one is, but to look out for what he can do next to better serve the country, he said. Hallie.
Julie Sirkin live for us there on Capitol Hill. Jules, thank you very much. Overseas now, with Israel stepping up its attacks inside southern Gaza tonight. Now apparently surrounding the city that is the heart of the south of the Strip, launching assaults on places where Israel says Hamas's top leaders are, but also where innocent people are, civilians who were told by Israel to get to the south for their own safety. The UN says the situation for people there is becoming increasingly apocalyptic, with food and water and medicine all running out again. And the State Department now saying Israel is not doing enough to let aid get in. To the north of Gaza, all of the health systems there are not functioning, according to what officials are telling NBC News. As we're getting this graphic video in of one hospital, leaders at another say its hospital is on the verge of closing, but they still cannot bury more than 100 dead bodies, accusing Israeli forces of not letting them. NBC News has not independently verified these claims. All of it's coming as late today. We are learning in just the last 90 minutes or so that Israel is considering flooding those Hamas tunnels with seawater using pumps, the latest signal of where Israel's attacks could go next. I want to bring in Hala Garani on the ground in Tel Aviv. That tunnel issue is important, Hala, because all along, Israeli forces had pointed to those tunnels as a place where Hamas fighters could hide, essentially, and make things difficult for the Israeli forces trying to eradicate them.
Yeah, and U.S. sources are suggesting that this is a tactic that Israel is considering. These are reports that have been floating around over the last several days. The Prime Minister's office, in a briefing today, was asked about the reports, and they replied that they could not share operational details, but that the battlefield is different, implying that tactics used in this particular conflict could be different. Also, and this is a part of not just the military offensive, but the information war. The Israeli government is saying that they've encircled the home of Yahya Sinwar, who is the head of Hamas. Our viewers may remember that Yahya Sinwar was released in 2011 as part of a prisoner swap involving more than 1,000 Palestinians against one Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit, who was captured in 2006. But the chances that Sinwar is in his home in Khan Yunis waiting for the IDF are pretty close to zero, Hallie.
There's also a key leader at the UN now warning of increasing the risk of horrific crimes in Gaza. Talk to us about the humanitarian situation there, how much worse it could get with people, it seems, running out of safe places to go.
Look, I really don't think you can overstate what a disaster it is from a humanitarian perspective in the Gaza Strip. First of all, half of the population that was in the north is now crowded in the south. There is no more hospital system in the north. Israeli airstrikes continue in parts of the Gaza Strip where they told people to evacuate to, including Rafah in the south. Our viewers may remember that Rafah, the border crossing with Egypt, is where many of the released Israeli hostages just pass through before going back into Israel. And we're seeing some absolutely harrowing images of the injured and the dying being brought into hospitals in Rafah. There is also the threat of disease. There is no clean drinking water in many places. Infrastructure has been destroyed. People are sleeping out in the open. And by the way, it's raining today and it's getting much colder, which is why I'm wearing a scarf. So people who are sleeping outside our tents are going to have a very rough time of it going forward, Hallie.
Hala Garani, thank you very much for that important reporting live for us there from Tel Aviv. Still ahead this hour, pilots under pressure. The new push in Washington to understand what some are calling a mental health crisis in the aviation industry. And later, an apology decades after a nightmare. The message from UK leaders to the families of nearly 100 soccer fans killed inside a stadium. Coming up. A grand jury is now deciding not to charge that off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot with attempted murder after he's accused of trying to crash a plane in Oregon while on mushrooms. The jury is instead choosing to indict him on misdemeanor counts of endangerment. All of it against the backdrop of the National Transportation Safety Board focusing on the mental health crisis so many pilots and crews are facing with its first ever summit of this kind, saying a culture of silence in the aviation industry is affecting safety. Listen.
No one should have to think twice about their job before seeking help. And yet here we are today because that's not currently the case in aviation.
Tom Costello is following all of this for us and is joining us now. So what is going to change after this hearing, which had some incredibly emotional moments and some very personal stories that illustrate just how intractable this problem has become?
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. As to what's going to change, listen, that's up to the FAA. And the FAA announced this week it has formed a committee to look into the following. Why are they reluctant to self-report that they are seeking medical help, mental health help, and maybe on meds? Well, the answer is not that difficult to understand if you listen to all the experts and even the FAA themselves. The issue is that pilots are afraid to report because they fear that they're going to lose their medical certificate. Then they can't fly. Then they can't provide for their family. That's the bottom line. But that fear extends to private pilots, to a 19-year-old kid by the name of John Hauser, University of North Dakota student learning how to fly. He took off on a solo flight in a plane out of University of North Dakota, and then he texted his parents with a message.
I want to seek help more than anything. I really do. I want to get better. I just know if I try, I will have to give up on aviation.
So that 19-year-old kid who felt like he needed help, that he was suffering, was reluctant to reach out and get help because he thought it would kill any future career prospects. So he put the plane into a nosedive. And that is the fear that all pilots are facing because some of them are reluctant to get help.
You've covered this aviation beat for a long time, Tom. Did you hear anything today that surprised you, that you didn't necessarily expect to have heard?
I would say almost every single witness here at this NTSB hearing was saying, we've got a problem in this country. First of all, we got to destigmatize mental health. And I think that's happening, right? For most of us, it's happening. But they've got to get to the FAA. They got to get to the, the typical macho pilot who doesn't want to admit he or she isn't feeling good, because you've got to get help, right? If you don't get help, then you're going to fly with a mental health issue, and that may be more unsafe, is the message. The FAA is working this problem, but I got to tell you, this agency, like most, moves at glacial speed. Yeah. So how quickly will it start to rectify the problem? It could take months or years. And in the meantime, they've only got 4 staff psychiatrists, 4, to go through the mountain of reports from other, professionals who say, I've gotten help, I'm ready to go back. And then the process just takes forever.
I mean, that may be the most illuminating stat, I think, of the day here, Tom, right? The idea that there are only 4 staff psychiatrists on board. And yep. We started this conversation intentionally talking about that off-duty pilot, who I think people remember, that just very terrifying story where he tried to kill the engines, apparently, while he was having a drug-addled experience. Apparently, per the New York Times, he texted a group of friends, and he did an interview with them saying, And in this text, he said, I'm having a mental breakdown and tried to turn off both engines on my flight home. I was struck by his wife, and we've talked about this, saying that he didn't even want to take anything more than allergy pills for his mental health struggles, because that can be a disqualifier, just like the story you laid out a minute ago.
Yeah, that's right. And listen, if you break your leg as a pilot, you call in sick, you go to the hospital, you get put into a cast, and then once your leg is fixed, you go back and you fly again, right? The question is, why in this century, this is not the 1950s when most of these FAA regs were written. In this century, if you get your head fixed, and you know, something like 20% of all Americans are going to go through some mental health issue at some time. If you get help and you get back to normal, shouldn't you be able to get back into the cockpit?
Tom Costello, it's important reporting. We're glad to have you there unraveling all of it for us. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Sean Combs, Diddy, he's now responding to a new lawsuit accusing him and 2 others of gang raping a 17-year-old girl in 2003. This is now the 4th suit that's been filed against Combs in the last few weeks. He says, I'm quoting here, that he did not do any of the awful things being alleged. Number 2, TV producer Norman Lear has died, a spokesperson for his family, telling us it happened overnight in his sleep with his family around him. You'll remember he's behind hit shows like The Jeffersons and All in the Family. He was 101 years old. Number 3, after several revisions, the College Board now says it's out with an updated curriculum for its new AP African American Studies course. Guess it's hoping 3rd time's the charm here. Our team spoke with one of the people behind that new curriculum that had created so much controversy in some states. Watch.
I'm a person that has a doctorate in African American Studies, and this is unlike any course that I've actually experienced. It is the course that I wish that I had in high school, and I do think it's the most exciting and engaging, comprehensive introduction to this field.
The changes include more time spent on topics like the Tulsa Race Massacre and Black culture's influence on film and sport. Things like Colin Kaepernick taking a knee. Number 4, next year's Belmont Stakes will not happen at Belmont at all. New York's governor is announcing today it'll move to Saratoga because Belmont Park's getting renovated. And since construction's set to go into 2025, we could see 2 years in Saratoga. Locals calling it a win for horse racing and for the capital region. Number 5, Taylor Swift has enchanted all of us, so maybe it's no surprise she is officially Time's Person of the Year. She beat out some other competitors like Barbie and King Charles. Taylor told Time she is the proudest and the happiest she has ever felt. To politics now. Within just a couple of hours now, that 4th Republican debate set to begin with its smallest stage ever, just 4 candidates. Small because those candidates do not include the frontrunner in this race, Donald Trump, yet again. He is turning his attention toward the general election, set to be at a private fundraiser tonight instead of duking it out publicly with the people trying to dethrone him as the far and away leader in the GOP field. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Chris Christie, they're going to be on. They're going to be trying to show voters why they should be selected. And they're probably going to be asked about this statement that former President Trump made not 24 hours ago. Listen.
We love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day 1. We're closing the border, and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator, okay?
Ali Vitale is joining us now, dictator on day 1. That is what is, I think, exploded into the political landscape today. You have Democrats, you have the Biden campaign, for example, coming out very strongly saying, you should take this seriously. Donald Trump had like a smirk on his face. He's laughing. But his competitors are saying, wait a second, this authoritarian suggestion that he's been making could be real if he's reelected. However, that has not hurt him on the other side of the aisle with the GOP voters who seem likely at this point, or who at least at this point support him to become the Republican nominee. How much do you think this is going to play into the stage where you are in Tuscaloosa tonight?
Look, Hallie, certainly if you're a Trump supporter before these comments, it's probably likely that you're still a Trump supporter after. We've seen controversy upon controversy from this former president from the time he started running in 2015 when you and I were out on the campaign trail all the way through now. He's not changing. I think that's baked in the cake for his supporters. The question is whether or not the people who are challenging him for the nomination are going to use this as a contrast point. At this point, it seems like only one of them is ready and willing to do so, and that's former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Watch what he told Shaq Brewster just in the last hour or two.
I think he intends on being a dictator for all the days of his presidency. He's made it very clear in previous comments that he was going to get the Justice Department on his watch against his enemies, get the IRS after his enemies. I took it partially seriously. He's right, and he's telling the truth.
And this is clearly a moment where his competitors could choose to go after him, or they won't. But I think the thing that's clear is that Trump might not be on the stage once again, but he's still setting the tone and setting the narrative of what everyone in his party is talking about.
Hallie Vitale, thank you very much for that. We're going to be watching for you, I know, after the debate on our special edition of Meet the Press Now with Kristen Welker tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern right here on NBC News Now, however you are watching. A scathing report tonight from the board handpicked by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to oversee Disney theme parks, accusing the company of improper influence akin to bribes. The audit of the previous board was presented at a meeting today, which says the company gave millions of dollars worth of tickets, discounted hotel stays, merchandise, and other stuff to members of its previous local board and board employees, saying that those freebies were like bribes of public officials. Disney's clapping back, saying this report is an exercise in revisionist history, neither objective nor credible. Remember, it was this local government board that managed services for the 25,000 acres that Disney sits on, stuff like electric, trash removal, the fire department. But the DeSantis staffed board was created to replace that entity after a PR battle between the governor and Disney over Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay law. Our Noah Pransky has been covering all of this for us. He's here to break this down. So some of the accusations in this report are notable. Some of what happened in this board meeting today were notable. Walk us through it.
They basically laid out the case today of why the old board was subjective to basically this undue influence campaign from Disney that dates back. The audit goes basically all the way back to 1967. They made the case this has been going on for decades. And one of the tools in the Disney arsenal, they allege, freebies. So take a look at what we pulled out of the report here. The audit says that Disney was offering annual family passes to Disney for basically these public board members and public employees. They were giving them discounts on Disney cruises and what they called really steep discounts on merchandise, food, and drinks. This relationship is so contentious, Hallie, that the board is suggesting that all these old employees and board members may need to pay millions of dollars in back taxes, calling these gifts that were never reported.
Didn't Governor DeSantis's PAC, his political action committee, benefit from some of these so-called Disney freebies, too?
Yeah, so there's the irony here. We went through some old campaign finance records, and we found that, yes, Governor DeSantis in 2019 received $6,800 worth of free food and beverage at an event at Disney back then, as well as cash donations totaling $100,000. But those numbers, tiny compared to what you see the state parties in Florida, including the Republican Party of Florida, almost $900,000 of in-kind freebies given to that party, $1.4 million to the Florida Democratic Party. And I spoke to former state Senator Jeff Brandes today, a Republican, who basically says that everyone in the Capitol knows about the power of the Disney dollar.
There's no secrets really in Tallahassee as relates, or in politics as relates to one of your largest economic engines that's facilitating events on their properties.
He calls Disney the mouse that roars. And Hallie, we didn't even get into the millions of dollars that they spend in cash donations for candidates and millions of dollars more in lobbying.
Why was this report even requested? What does it mean? Like, what is Disney? How, are they able to defend themselves against these findings if they wanted to?
This is part of the war that DeSantis and Disney have been going back and forth. A war of words, but also a war of regulation over the last 18 months. Ever since Disney spoke out, the CEO spoke out against what was DeSantis called the Parental Rights and Education Bill, what critics called Don't Say Gay. Disney did put out a statement. They said the new oversight board here was appointed by the governor to punish Disney for exercising its constitutional right to free speech. Hallie also reached out to Governor DeSantis, but did not hear back from his office.
Noah Pransky, lots of moving pieces on that front today. Thank you.
Sure.
NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day. And because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here is some of what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of the Vatican, Pope Francis says he's feeling much better after having bronchitis the last couple weeks. He says he still gets tired if he talks too much, so he asked an aide to read his weekly remarks. You'll remember the Pope had to cancel his trip to the UN climate conference last week on doctor's orders. Out of the UK, the British government is apologizing to the families of 97 Liverpool soccer fans who died in a stampede in 1989. The Hillsborough disaster, as it was called, was initially blamed on rowdy fans, but an investigation found wrongdoing and mistakes by police. Those reports not fully acknowledged by the government until now. The UK says it'll now require public officials to take a pledge to tell the truth moving forward. And out of Peru, take a look at this pretty wild video of people narrowly avoiding getting hit by a car, like inches away. It was only stopped thanks to that telephone pole. That's just scary moments there. You can see that woman running away, and then inside, that's the view from that store. One guy ended up going over the counter at one point there. Still ahead, a lot more to come here on the show, including a bombshell investigation or lawsuit into what children are being exposed to on social media, the allegations there inside the undercover operation happening in plain sight, and how the owner of Facebook and Insta is responding. Next. A bombshell and wildly disturbing new lawsuit paints a gruesome picture, alleging Instagram and Facebook exposed children to sexual exploitation, making the platforms, in the lawsuit's words, a breeding ground for predators. New Mexico's Attorney General filed this civil suit. He claims Meta, which of course is the parent company of those sites, recommends accounts to children that promote things like buying child pornography or engaging in human trafficking. The suit also alleges the algorithm is set up in a way that keeps promoting this, and the state says it found this out through its own investigation, where it set up several fake accounts to essentially go undercover to see what's going on. One of the accounts posing as a mother, hinting that she was looking to sex traffic her supposedly 13-year-old daughter. None of those posts were flagged by Facebook, they say. That so-called daughter in that instance also had an account which received offers to be a sugar baby from an adult. The state says Facebook also offered to set up a professional account for that fake girl, which would have meant that both the account and Meta could have potentially profited from it. I want to bring in now Kate Snow. And Kate, this lawsuit is not saying that Meta is liable as the publisher of this kind of material, but that, and I'm quoting here, it cultivates an atmosphere for creation and proliferation of harmful content. Tell us more.
Yeah, there's a lot in this complaint, Hallie, and frankly, a lot of the images no one wants to look at. This undercover investigation went on for several months, as you said, these decoy accounts that they created. You just mentioned the investigator who pretended to be a mom with a fictitious daughter. Well, they made another account as a friend of that daughter, 12 years old, fake account. From the start, that 12-year-old was recommended content that was largely sexual, images of masturbation, even the suggestion that she visit the explicit site OnlyFans. 12 years old. The Attorney General's office says they found that the decoy children were served and directed to a, quote, stream of egregious sexually explicit images, even when the child expressed no interest in that. They found that kids were encouraged to join unmoderated Facebook groups devoted to facilitating commercial sex. They also allege in this suit that dozens of adults found, contacted, and tried to persuade the people that they thought were children to send them sexually explicit photos or participate in pornography. The Attorney General's office, Hallie, spoke with a survivor of being exploited, a real-life survivor who was exploited as a minor. And this person said, it's hard to describe what it feels like to know that at any given moment, someone somewhere is looking at images of me as a child being sexually abused and getting sick gratification from it. It's like I'm being abused over and over and over again. The AG says Meta is allowing all of this to happen for profit. That's their argument. The suit says Meta executives, including Mark Zuckerberg, are aware of the serious harm of their products, Hallie, and not doing enough to make changes and not prioritizing engagement. Rather, they are prioritizing engagement, they say, over ad revenue. Ad revenue over sorry, one more time. Engagement and ad revenue over safety. They're making money over safety.
I get what you're saying here. I get the allegations here that this lawsuit lays out. The question is, what is Meta saying, right? How are they responding to that?
Yeah, so Meta has responded in a statement. A Meta spokesperson says to us, child exploitation is a horrific crime and online predators are determined criminals. We use sophisticated technology, hire child safety experts, report content to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and share information and tools with other companies and law enforcement, including state attorneys general, to help root out predators. In 1 month alone, we disabled, they say, more than 500,000 accounts for violating our child safety policies. I will say, though, Hallie, the AG's office says that right before they filed this complaint, roughly half of the reported content stuff they had reported was still up, they say.
A lot of people have had concerns about this. We know that some of these big tech CEOs have been called in to try to testify in a Senate hearing related to online child exploitation next month. What's your sense of where this goes from here, the steps moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big hearing. Senate Judiciary Committee, it's January 31st. We're talking about Dick Durbin, the Democrat, Republican Lindsey Graham. They say the CEOs of X, Discord, and Snapchat are going to be there only because they were subpoenaed. They say the CEOs of Meta and TikTok voluntarily agreed to come. And they want to talk about failures in protecting kids. And they're pointing to at least 5 proposed bipartisan bills in the Senate right now aimed at stopping exploitation of kids, various different ways. Look, Hallie, I don't have to tell you how hard it is to get anything done in Congress right now. You know that better than anyone. But if there is one issue where there's common ground, it is this. So potentially Congress could take some action in the future. I think the harder part of lawsuits is that, as we know, oftentimes media companies argue that they are protected by a federal statute that says they're not legally responsible for what people say on their platforms.
Kate Snow, thank you so much for that breakdown and that important reporting. Appreciate it. You can catch Kate Snow, by the way, anchoring on NBC News Now daily, weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Kate and Zinkley every single day on broadcast and right here on News Now. Still to come, the AI race is really heating up tonight, and from a company that's not totally known for AI. We'll tell you why Google's trying to up its game next. Google today stepping more into a space it's kind of been struggling in, and that is AI, trying to up its game with the launch of Gemini. This is basically a new AI model that Google calls its most capable one yet. It's going to be rolled out in phases to boost Google's current chatbot called Bard. If you have a Google Pixel Pro, a version of it may already be on your phone. Google is specifically shouting out Gemini's problem-solving skills and showing this example. Check this out.
You are trying to get me to find the paper ball under the cup. I accept the challenge. The cup to the left.
Nice. Did you get that right? The version with all the fanciest features isn't going to come out until early next year, but I want to bring in CNBC tech reporter Jennifer Elias with us now. So what's so interesting here, there's already AI out there, right? A lot of people are already using AI on the reg. So why would they use Google's instead? What's the incentive to switch over here?
Well, Hallie, Google says this is the most powerful, capable AI model that exists right now, and even more so in some cases it outperforms the most advanced that exists, which is GPT-4. So many people and companies who want to use this, maybe they have tasks in math or complex problems, image recognition, something that requires a lot of data, they may want to use this. We got a demo of a student using Gemini to actually identify a very complex physics problem that it actually pointed out the mistakes in it and why it was a mistake. So there's that. And then, it's also, the company also says this is its safest testing that it's done. So, if someone's concerned about safety, hallucinations, bad information coming out of it, they could try this, though, we don't know for sure yet. We haven't had enough time with it. And then finally, the AI is not a winner-takes-all market yet. So there's room for kind of people to use more AI models.
ChatGPT already has its most advanced version out already, and it has more name recognition in the AI space, it seems. So is Google late to the game? Are they trying to take advantage of some of that open AI drama? And how much pressure is Google, these other big tech companies, under to try to be a leader in this space?
Right. Well, Google does appear to be behind in terms of actually launching a product. They've had the technology, but Hallie, compared to OpenAI, this is a larger company, more bureaucracy, moves slower, and has a lot of public scrutiny right now. So they're going to be slow at launching these things. And then, yeah, right now is a good time for them, as we saw with some drama around OpenAI the last couple of weeks with the board ousting its CEO and then reinstating it. A lot of companies we found in our reporting have been looking for alternates. And so, what better time to launch their alternate today and before the end of the year.
Jennifer Elias, thank you very much over at CNBC. Really appreciate it. Thanks for doing this for us. That's a wrap for this hour. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.